Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Love Bay Afrobeat Radio. You have just joined our studio, and this is your host, Dr. FM, Dr. Francis Mpindu Munangi, coming live all the way from the studios in Toronto, in Canada. And I am in the US, and our guest today is all the way in Africa. And in a moment, we are going to connect with him and get to know whereabouts precisely he is and some of the things that he is doing. Love Bay Afrobeat Music Radio is a very, very special platform that has been created by our executive team that operates from Toronto in Canada. And we go live every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are live on YouTube, on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and of course, TikTok. We are live in over 100 different countries around the world and counting. And so this is a very, very special platform that has been created. Love Bay Afrobeat Radio has quite a variety of programs. They are on 24/7, different genres of music, but also different programs. And I really mean that, from health, sports, music, and of course, one of them on Saturdays is Today's Africa. And so we are just delighted that you've made time to be with us today, and you are not going to be disappointed. Today, we're talking about an African heritage-based economic system, Nhhakanomics, or we might put it in another way and say an Ubuntu heritage-based economic system. This is something that is gaining momentum. And the brother we're going to be talking to and his wife, they are making waves across Africa and globally. You will understand why I am saying this momentarily. And so, without further ado, I'd like to welcome Dr. Daoud Taranike, all the way from Africa. In a moment, he will tell us where exactly in Africa he is from. And this is a very, very special brother who has a heart for Africa, and he has a heart for his community. And one of the things, just to preempt a number of things here, is he is making waves in transitioning the rural Africa to an urban Africa. And so we're going to be hearing the philosophy behind this and some of the things that are happening. And I am aware that Moscow is interested, Russia is interested in what he and his wife are doing. And Lesotho is excited about what is happening. In fact, I was told that recently there was a whole delegation that was sent under the leadership of His Excellency Ambassador Tisele Maseribane from Lesotho, coming to Zimbabwe, and they stayed there for several days just learning what is happening and took that concept back, and they are going to be developing that. So I'm sure you are just as curious as I am to find a little more information from Dr. Taranike here. Dr. Taranike, welcome, my brother, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. I know that you could have been somewhere else, but this is early evening in Africa, but you have joined us. And so thank you for making time to be with us today.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for having me. It's a great privilege and an honor. I really appreciate it.
So when people hear the name Dr. Daoud Taranike, and of course your wife, Christina, what is it that you are doing, and how did this come about?
Well, Christina, my wife, and I are working with communities in rural Zimbabwe, now spreading to other countries within the region and beyond. Primarily, we established ourselves in Buhera district, and Buhera district is in ecological region 4, which is dry, arid, 4 to 5 actually. We receives very little rainfall, and frequent droughts occur and prolonged dry spells, which affect agricultural operations in the area. So it's actually in Manicaland province in Zimbabwe, and has been always ranked the poorest district in the province. So that's where we are operating from. And because of the frequent droughts and prolonged dry spells, people do not harvest much in the year. So they have to depend on handouts from NGOs, from donors, from sponsors, from government, and other well-wishers. And this is where we established ourselves, because that's where we come from. And we realized that there's so much poverty and hunger, and that place is marginalized. And we said, how can we change the situation? And we came up with a model that is called the Integral Kumusha, running under the umbrella of Nhhakanomics, which we will discuss in detail later. So in that initiative, which is a social innovation that we have embarked on, we've been on it since 2017, and our desire is to eradicate poverty, hunger, and marginalization of rural communities, starting with Buhera and spreading to other rural communities in Zimbabwe, in SADC, and in Africa, and probably the global south, so to speak. And we have a very simple but very effective model that looks at how we can transform the traditional homestead into a viable socioeconomic entity that then makes people enhance their lives, create wealth for themselves and future generations. In Shona, we call that Naka, which is inheritance or legacy. So we want people to, for themselves, we want them to create value for future generations. So that's what we're doing. And now initiatives and projects are currently running. So as you said in your initial introduction.
This is very, very interesting, and I am getting excited already, because one of the things that struck me was one of my earlier guests was Professor Rukuni, who is very much into we must learn to benefit and to live off the land. As long as we have land, we are okay. And of course, we know historically with colonization and all that, land has always been at the center of the things that uh, the settlers wanted to make sure that we do not appreciate the land as much. But this is a new day, and you are a testament to that. And so, and then of course, I learned that Dr. Rukuni, Professor Rukuni was at one of your meetings, and I saw a video, and when I saw him, I was like, oh, wow, this is a wonderful, wonderful connection. So it's true. This is a concept that is transforming communities. Now, you are from this part of the world. I mean, that part of the world from Buhera, you said. So how did this come about? Because I know at some point, if I remember correctly, I think you have been in the city for quite a long time. So how did that transition happen? How did you move from being in the city and you're like, listen, this is where our homestead is. We need to do something about it. Just lead us through the process that you went through, because I mean that wasn't an overnight kind of stuff. And I'm not too sure if your wife jumped on it right away, from the city to the rural community and so forth. So fill us in on the process that you went through.
Thank you very much, Doctor. This was a real journey, and we are so excited that we embarked on this journey. But your question is very, very important and pertinent. How did this start all about? Us thinking, let's go back to Buhera, let's do something in Buhera. We started with a question, and the question was, Africa is so rich with resources, and how come a continent so rich as the majority of its people living in poverty, and they need some people to help them, to look after them? And if we share statistics, this made us lose sleep, because we discovered that over 556 million people in Africa live in abject poverty. That's a huge number. That's Africa. And close to 78% of the 1.3 billion people in Africa cannot afford a balanced diet. If there's something that will make us lose sleep, this will definitely do. And we then said, these statistics reflect what we also have in Zimbabwe. And we found out also that over 33% of women, childbearing women, suffer from anemia, which is a big number. And over 27% of children under 5 years experience stunted growth. And when you look at that, we're actually saying we have a crisis in terms of human capital. And we cannot allow this to continue, and we pay a blind eye to it. And we cannot leave it to non-governmental organizations alone. Neither can we just leave it to government. We also felt the urge that we'll do our bit. And this is what made us to think that we needed to do something to change the situation, to transform. And in specific terms, what we wanted to, and we desire to see, is to see transformation from scarcity to abundance, from poverty to prosperity. And that's what triggered all the desire. And when we shared with Christina, she also caught up on the vision and the mission that we can do it. And we then decided, and through research and researching with the communities, we established that the starting point, the easier way of starting, is to start with homesteads, is to start with where people live, home trade. And this is how the old wisdom was, that where you live is your source of livelihood. In Africa, and also even in the Greek life, that's why they talked about oikos, which means a home trade. And we did research around that, and we realized that we need to come up with a transformation from an ordinary and traditional homestead to a place that will make people happy to be, and change the mindset and the thinking that rural areas and rural homesteads are just places for the poor. They are places to be buried when you are dead, and they are forgotten places. But we want to transform them so that people realize that whatever is around them, the resources that are around them, can be transformed and be used to enhance their lives and livelihoods. So that was the starting point. But it didn't just end there, Doc. We also realized that this wasn't going to be an easy uh, process. And then we wanted to know why we were in that situation. Why is it that we have so many people, and the majority of Africans in rural communities are poor? Why? What is the root cause? And in our findings, it came out evidently clear that there has been, we have inherited systems and legacies that have not helped us to think and to see opportunities around us, and even to see the opportunities within what we can do with the land and the nature that is around us. And I'm talking about the legacies of slavery, legacies of colonialism, legacies of racism, legacies of capitalism. Because when you look at these systems, they are individualistic, they are exclusive, they separate people. They divide people by class. They are highly exploitative, and they are individualistic. It's the winner takes all. It's mine. I can do, and whatever is available, let me do whatever. In the name of development, we don't know when it's enough, because they create so much high appetite for consumption that we don't know when it's enough. And we continue even without having to put back into nature what we will have taken out. And these legacies destroyed the real fabric of the African values and philosophy of Ubuntu, which is communal in approach, which is collective, which is collaborative, which is oneness and unity, and the desire that we work together. We all Tutu talked about I am because we are. And we said we cannot transform, although we saw the model coming out, but then we said we cannot transform these rural communities. And I know a lot of initiatives have been put, transformative initiatives, but the reason why they have not moved at a pace that we expected is we have not changed the way, the system that has taken us into there. We cannot, Doctor, expect the system that got us into this situation of abject poverty and begging mentality to be the same system that we will use to transform ourselves out of it. Remember, we have had over 100 years, which is a century of colonialism, and our mindset is set in that format. So we needed a different way of thinking. If I may use the technology analogy, is that we needed new software in our thinking. The current software would not apply, would not give us the results that we want. And if I would use the scriptural analogy, it's our Lord Jesus Christ talked about not putting new wine in old bottles. And if we expect to transform using the same old system to get a new kind of system, then we are just flogging a dead horse. And hence, then we said, what software do we require? What mindset do we need to change? We need people to start to think not as slaves. We need people to transform from beggars to providers. We need people to think from being oppressed to freedom. But we cannot do it under the same system that has gotten us into there. And that's how we came up with, we started to search for a system that resonates with the African way of living, with the Ubuntu way of living. And that's how we came up with the Nhhakanomics. And putting that as a software, and then the integral kumusha, which is the hard way, so to speak, being driven by the software in getting what we want to do. Then we change the thinking, we bring awareness, we bring consciousness, and we get people to realize that they can be masters of their own destiny. So that's the journey. That is what brought us to where we are today. To answer your question, I wound it round, but for a good reason, that you understand the background.
And you did an absolutely great job on that. And thank you very much for enlightening us on the process that you went through. There are a number of things that I caught, and I think one of the things I caught earlier on is you highlighted the fact that, you didn't say it, but I picked it up, that marriage is a strategy. Because if you get married to someone who is not on the same wavelength with you, you're not going to go anywhere. In fact, that could be a very, very frustrating journey.
True.
And you're absolutely right. And so I can see how your wife, Christina, caught the vision, and you guys have been journeying together. Quite often, great plans never go anywhere because the two who are supposed to embrace it and make it their own and have an ownership of this vision are not walking together. Just as the Bible talks about, how can two walk together unless they be in agreement? And so thank you for highlighting that. And I hope and trust that our young people listening in, and even the older ones, we need to understand that marriage is a strategy. If you, not all people are created equal in that sense, in terms of vision and being entrepreneurial. And so it is important that you connect with someone who would have the same vibes and same, things. Anyway, I appreciated you bringing that up. And then the other thing I think you have brought our attention is changing of the mindset. That, the system that brought us to where we are is not the same system that we can count on to take us on to the next level. And so I can see, to some degree, I can never fully understand you, but I appreciate the fact that you have gone out of your way to help us by using words to paint a picture of the process that you went through. And it seems to me that you are a very down-to-earth transformational leader, you're saying these are the issues in this community. I mean, you highlighted that Buhera is little rain, frequent droughts, poor districts, you know, just so many things that worked against this environment. But you looked at it from a different perspective and you said, listen, these are the issues, but what could be the possible solutions? And so I think that puts you, in my view, in a category of people that we desperately need in Africa. People who are, and not just in Africa, but globally, uh, people who are solution focused. There has to be an answer. There has to be an option. Many times, I mean, even some of our young people, in the line of work, when we deal with young people who are struggling with mental, emotional, behavioral wellness or issues, they get to a place where they lose hope. There's nothing to look forward to. So some of them end up committing suicide, which is a very, very selfish decision, by the way, because in the context of what we're talking about, it's not just you. You belong to a family, you belong to a community, you belong to a nation. And whatever you do impacts other people. And so it is important that we dwell on this mindset. And in a moment, I want us to come back. Well, not really come back, but I want us to have you talk about the interest that is growing in other parts of Africa. And I made reference to Moscow, and I think you were supposed to put some presentations together, which are going to be used in Moscow. But after that, I want us to come back, and I would like you to paint us a picture. We don't have a picture of your homestead right now, but I'm going to have you paint us a picture of what we could see when we come over there. We have viewers and listeners who are around the world, so they're not seeing anything. So we trust that you, being who you are, gifted with the gift of articulation and words, you would be able to paint that picture for us. But I'd like us to just have you talk briefly about the interest that is now growing. You have this strong connection in Lesotho with His Excellency Ambassador Maseribani. And Moscow is picking up on this. So somehow word has gotten that far. So what is happening? What are they interested in?
Thank you. That's a very important development that I'm very happy to share about that. Before I come to paint the picture about the integral commercial, which you have mentioned. Let me start by talking about Lesotho, because that's what has brought us now to get the interest of a well-known organization in Moscow that we are now partnering with. Ambassador Maseribani got to know about the integral commercial innovation through social media when he was Lesotho ambassador to Italy. And he asked Ambassador Chauke, who's Zimbabwean ambassador to Italy, if what you were seeing on media was true. Because I will talk more about this when I paint the picture of the integral commercial, but I think it will be sufficed for me at this point just to mention that the integral commercial, this innovation, has been commissioned and launched as the national model rural homestead on the 21st of December 2021. Minister of ICT, Postal and Courier Services, Dr. Jennifer Muswere, after they had seen what we were doing. And that recognition went public through YouTube and social media, other channels, because we're also on website. We have our website. And that's where Ambassador Tesele picked it up. And Ambassador Chauke made a trip to come and see what we're doing. And then Ambassador Chauke was representing Zimbabwe in Italy. I think she still is now. And when Ambassador Maserebani got the confirmation, and he was then the SADC ambassadors coordinator. So he would coordinate ambassadors within the SADC community. And we then started dialoguing up to a point when he made a trip with his contingents to come and see what we were doing. And he spent almost a week. He came on the 21st of August up to the 4th of September this year with the entire team of women, young people, and who are women farmers, male farmers, and young people to see what we were doing. And it was so interesting that we then launched and established a memorandum of understanding to partner, to work with them and to establish a similar innovation in Lesotho, which is the work that is ongoing. And coincidentally, we got to work with Genesis Fertilizers Global Solutions country manager in Zimbabwe, who then was keen to partner with us, because one of the key focus area we do is soil regeneration. We are so concerned on the health of the soil because our conviction is a healthy soil will give you healthy crops or health food, and healthy food will give us good health, and good health will make us to deliver a healthy economy. So we feed the soil, and the soil will feed the crops or the livestock with good nutrients, so that we have the good nutrients, and then we can go over those issues that I talked about of malnutrition, problems of malnutrition, stunting, and then anemic problems, because people are getting good food. And we realize, and this has been supported by this research that was done in SADC. The 15 countries out of the 16 countries in SADC conducted a research on indigenous foods and food systems. And it was established that our traditional crops or traditional foods are nutrients dense and they give us longevity. And we realize our work towards improving the health of the soil and focusing on traditional crops and grains combined together, we are now then talking of a very strong health ecosystem that starts from the soil to the plants or to the animals, livestock, to the people, to the economy, and our well-being. That's why we then came up with a theme that says our focus is to create regenerative local economies for the well-being of humanity in harmony with nature. And this is all driven by the fact that we want to have this, and that's the excitement. So what we are doing, and which has been confirmed now by the research study that was done in SADC, and the report was actually launched on Monday, the 10th of November, confirms exactly what we are doing. And this is what made Genesis, they're actually running an international conference as we speak on how we can improve the health of the soil by using organic fertilizers. And we actually make our own organic fertilizers, and then we can enhance with what the Russians are making. And this is the interest that the Russians have taken, that here we are focusing on the health of the soil. They have organic fertilizer primarily to look at the crops and increase health, nutrients, and the yield. And we are saying the yields and the nutrients can be enhanced if we have a healthy soil as the best. And that's how we are now collaborating. And they are so excited to work with us in Zimbabwe and excited to work with us in Lesotho, where we're setting this project, and move with us into the SADC region and beyond. And as you may be aware, Genesis Organic Manure, they supply their products in Western and Eastern parts of Africa, and they are not that much, their footprint is not big in SADC, but they've realized that our approach, because we depend on organic manure and we mimic what nature does, because nature regenerates itself. And if there's powerful lessons that we have learned from nature that we are putting back in how we can regenerate the soil, we can regenerate our economies, we can regenerate even our culture, we can regenerate our thinking. So that's how the whole issue of the interest with the Russians, the interest with Lesotho have come into place.
You know, just listening to you, Dr. Taranike, I'm just hoping that our African brothers and sisters in neighboring countries and across Africa will actually embrace this and run with it before we allow people outside of Africa to run with this and make it their own. Because I mean, from what you're sharing, this is loaded. There are so many great things that we as a continent, we as Africans, and everybody globally would be able to benefit from. I mean, the way you're putting it, when we have good food, healthy food, it gives us longevity, it gives us good health, and that in itself contributes to a better world, to a better society. And so this is really exciting. I'm just I'm loving this. You mentioned earlier the value of communal mentality, collaborative, and uh, collective mind, working together with others. And you are aware that historically, because of colonization, and of course, we can't continue to blame the settlers and colonization. You know, we went through that. The effects are still with us, but we are creating a new culture. We're creating a new understanding, a new day, so that we are able to come up with solutions for ourselves. And I'm listening to you, and I'm like, this is exciting. I mean, you talk about innovation, you talk about employment creation. We are not looking for work, but you are actually creating opportunities for people now to work at this. Now, how big a property is this before we get into you painting the picture for us? How big is this? I mean, I saw quite a number of things from some of the pictures on the website, and I'm just like, wow, this is very impressive. And I must say, sir, before I go any further, thank you for answering the call to bring new life in Buhera, in an area that has so many strikes against it. And yet you, by God's grace, are able to introduce new life, to introduce new perspectives, create opportunities. And one of the things you mentioned earlier, which really, really resonates with me, is this emphasis on empowering and equipping women. And your wife is actively involved in that. I was fascinated by, the fact that she has a pet name. She's nicknamed Maichimuti, which is really stick. A stick. It's like a nobody. But from that, people around the community have embraced that, and she is making so many changes for the women, and introducing, I just want to say thank you, sir, for answering the call and being so focused on your community, and realizing this is not just about your community. This goes beyond your community to other communities. So paint us a picture of what we would see and what we could see mentally, the best way you can. So on arrival, tell us how big this piece of property is, what's going on there, what are some of the things that are happening there. Help us to understand what's going on. And of course, those of you who just joined us, we are here on Love Bay Afrobeat Radio, your number one online radio, the Caribbean and African online radio with a variety of programs. And this is Today's Africa with your host here, Dr. FM. And we're talking to Dr. Daoud Taranike, who is a co-founder of what they call Integral Kumusha, which is really taking the city into the rural areas and developing it and making it viable, bringing in new economics, and just changing things, not just for the now, but for the future as well. So, sir, take it away. Paint us a picture of what is going on there and what we would see. One of the things before I forget, I know I'm interrupting now. One of the things before I forget is when we were talking about you coming as a guest, you actually said we have very good internet. We have a high-powered system. Now, you took the city into the rural areas, which is out there in the rural areas, and you're transforming this and making this accessible to others. And so, again, thank you. So take it away and fill us in.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. FM. If you came to our place in 2017, you would see a small plot, almost 2 hectares in size, with a few indigenous trees around, and also dry grass and loose sandy soil around the property, and most of the time with taking place. And this is where we are in 2017. Now, with the developments that has taken place, and I must give credit and recognize the support that we have received from the local leadership, traditional leadership, administrative leadership, political leadership in our area, they have not put spanners in the works for this project to fail. We have received tremendous support, and I want to appreciate that. And our village head, when my wife relocated to this place, now Integral Kumusha, and she changed her name, as you have rightfully mentioned, from Christina Taranike, Mai Taranike, to Mai Chimuti. Mai, in our language, means Mrs. Mrs. Chimuti now, you can call her Mrs. Chimuti, but Chimuti is a stick, as you said. And she picked on this name so that she can identify with the marginalized and vulnerable rural women and say, we are together. We want to walk together. You have something of value. They have tremendous value. And if you come to the Integral Kumusha, you'll see the banner that reads Mushamukadzi. What it literally means in English is a home is incomplete without a wife. You can only have a wife, you can only have a stable home and progressive home if you have a good wife. I suppose I need to qualify that, a good wife, not just a wife. And what you would see, and the mental picture that I'm painting now, I would like not to take the credit from my wife, because most of what I will be talking about, she has done it practically herself. I have been supporting, I've been coming up with ideas and suggestions and some strategies on how we can do it. But when it comes to implementation, she's an implementation queen. And I'm so happy that we have her there. So what would you see if you came to the Integral Kumusha? You'll be greeted by a smiley, happy Mai Chimuti to take you in there, giving you the unique African hospitality. And now our food is all traditional food. When you come to the Integral Kumusha, we will give you an opportunity to taste our indigenous food, our traditional food, and to feel this very special food, because that's what makes us who we are. That's our identity. And it's prepared in the African way. So we are so proud to present this African cuisine. In fact, she has actually participated in the First Lady's initiative on gastronomy and cookout competitions that have been happening nationally and up to the UN level. And she's so passionate about exhibiting what Africa offers in terms of its rich and special food. And that's what you'll be greeted with. But that food is grown at the Integral Kumusha. She has a saying and live in, you grow what you eat and you eat what you grow, you are what you eat. You grow what you eat what you grow, and you are what you eat. So if we're going to be talking about health, if we're going to be talking about well-being, if we're going to be talking about livelihoods, we command the entire value chain from the seed to the soil to the grain store, from the grain store to the pot, from the pot to the tummy, to the gut. And by the way, we are strong believers that all our health profile is the foundation is the gut health, and it's the food that we eat. And hence, we control the entire process because we want to control our health. So that's one part of what you will meet when you get to the integral kumusha. We also strongly believe in issues of the environment, issues of social and governance issues, what people are now calling the ESG. Nature to us, if you come to the integral kumusha, you realize that there is coexistence in terms of what nature presents. And from the whole understanding that nature is all made up by an entire and huge ecosystem. You see our poultry, we have road runners, or free range chickens and poultry, ducks, geese. You see them, you see the peacocks and the peahens. You see all kinds of birds, rabbits, the bees. The bees are also part of our livestock, by the way. You'll also see some goats, sheep, and some cattle. So we not only talk about crops, we talk about the entire food chain, the indigenous food chain. That is our focus. We also look, you will see issues that relate to horticulture, vegetables, fruits, exotic and indigenous fruits. You also see high value crops like ginger, garlic, turmeric, pineapples. And I'm saying pineapples with an emphasis because this is the first crop of pineapples that has been grown in Buhera by Chimoti. And they are actually starting to flower and to bear fruit, which just goes to show that anything is possible when you apply your mind to it. You will see when you get to the integral kumusha evidence of natural conservation practices, water conservation. We believe in the hectares that we now have, which our headman and chief has allowed us to have. The rain that God gives us in a particular time in our area are allocated to us. And we do everything possible to retain as much of that rain as possible to sink into the soil and to minimize runoff. And you can see that by the infiltration pits that we put in our contours. See that by the percolating trenches that we have made that slows the flow of runway water so that water flows into the soil and within the soil, thereby maintaining soil moisture for a longer period. And we have taken the responsibility that we don't allow so much water just to flow away from us. Water should flow, but it should go within the soil. So you will see evidence of that. You also see very good evidence of the manufacturing of organic manure and the crops that you will see responding to this manure. We actually work on what we call vermicompost. This is a special manure that we make, which we use worms. You know, vermi is another word for worms. And we process all our biodegradable matter. For us, we don't know what is waste because there is no waste. Anything that dries up, anything that decays has to go back to the soil and feed the soil so that the soil can actually feed the crops and the livestock and feed us. And in turn, we have a happy ecosystem. So these are things that you'll see. You will also see evidence of focus on renewable energy. You talked about connectivity. It's made possible because we use solar. We are off grid. We don't have ZESA or hydro-powered or coal-powered electricity. So when it comes to carbon emission, we are standing on zero because we use solar. Actually, we have just upgraded our solar system now to a 20 kVA, three-phase, which can run all what we need, our incubators for our eggs, our hatcheries, and all our equipment. And what you also see is the use of nature. We use gravity as the power to deliver water where it's required. You will see a big water reservoir of 450,000 liters, which is 450 tons of water that carries us through the dry season. So you see an agricultural and irrigation system where we use drip irrigation because we want to minimize evaporation of water. And you see a lot of mulching and all ways of conserving. And I can say all measures to mitigate against the negative effects of climate change. So these are some of the things you'll see. There is also very interesting sites that you'll see. You will see people visiting to see what I have talked about and being entertained. Maichumuti has now grown another portfolio of creating value through agrotourism. And people now come to the Integral Kumusha in Buhera, in the rural community, to experience all this, and that benefits the communities. The food that we serve, we buy from the local community members. She has trained the ladies in the communities. They are the ones who prepare the food through the gastronomy lessons, and they serve in an African and authentic traditional way. So you'll see that. If you are lucky, you will also see universities, researchers coming for a conference under the tree. So you can expect to see that. You can also expect to see school children visiting to learn about the traditional way of life, how people would prepare, they would grind using the grinding mill, the grinding stone, and how they will prepare the meals, and how that can be modernized. And what you will see is a modern homestead, but not westernized, because we sincerely believe modernization is not westernization. We want to maintain our Africanness, our African identity, while at the same time we are progressing in our culture and in our practices. Those are some of the things you see. You also see researchers conducting research and demo plots for testing and validating. You also see people agro-processing that food into final products and packaging them and selling them. We've got roadrunner eggs. We've got different kinds of meals that we provide, and products, finished products. You'll see honey, you'll see butternuts, and to us, bees are not just insects, they are livestock because they give us value. They give us honey and they pollinate all our crops. So they are a critical input to our agricultural value chain. So you see evidence of regenerative agriculture, regenerative local economies, regenerative culture, and regenerative knowledge co-creation, because we also harness on our indigenous knowledge and knowledge systems to create wealth for now and for the unseen generations. That's the picture that I'll paint. I don't know whether
Oh,
it gives
wow.
some mental picture.
You are such an artist, and so thank you very much for creating that beautiful picture for us. I mean, it makes me want to say to my significant other, listen, the next time we are in that part of the world, we can't miss the opportunity to see that. And thank you very much for painting that beautiful picture. I am looking at the time and I'm like, oh my goodness, an hour is gone already, and I just feel like we just got started. And so I must hasten to say that we will definitely have you back. And I'm hoping that next time around you would be able to come with your wife so that we can have a conversation with both of you and just bring in the two perspectives here. And so I'm very grateful that our chief engineer has said we can take an additional 10 minutes.
Wow.
So thank you, Chief Engineer, Mr. TYB. We appreciate that, sir. So when I look at some of the things, or just processing some of the things you have shared with us, and you have shared a lot, and I need a lot of time to go through my notes and process this, including some of the pictures you have um, uh, painted or created for us, so that I can just, you know, ruminate and enjoy this picture that you've painted. One of the things I would like you to think of as we near the end of our time together today is you touched on children. You talked about children coming from the schools to be part of what is happening. To me, this is very, very important as someone who is passionate about education and also about the future of our children. Oftentimes, we leave our children out. You know, we plan things, we do things, and we sort of tag them along. And most of the time, it actually blows up in our face because, you know, I believe that there are some lessons that are taught and there's some lessons that are caught. People have to see
Mm,
things.
mm,
People have to participate in something.
mm,
Now,
mm,
it thrills my heart to know that you are working with children, and the various schools and universities actually come to research and learn from this innovation that you have introduced. Now, when you look at some of the things that have happened historically, and I think I'm speaking on behalf of Africa here. I'm going to generalize. Oftentimes, when God forbid, when one of you dies, when one of my own family dies, when my neighbor's man or wife dies, there are all kinds of issues that arise, and oftentimes it gets really, really ugly. But in your earlier comment, you were talking about future generations. So, what have you done as an African man to prepare your family, your extended family, and your children and your own brothers and your sisters and all the aunts and the uncles to say what you're seeing here is Naka. It's heritage, it's inheritance, but it is not free for all. Now, I hope I'm right in saying
You
that.
are. You
Okay.
are.
So what have you done to prepare? I mean, I know when I talk like this, my significant other feels a little uncomfortable. She's like, why do you always talk about death and leaving and so forth? And I'm like, that's
That's
reality.
reality.
Statistics are very good. One in every one person dies. So you
Sure.
can't beat that. so
Mm.
so tell us, what are some of the things that you have done, sir, to prepare for the next generations in terms of this innovation that you have introduced in Buhera?
Uh, Thank you very much. I think that is a very pertinent point that you have raised, which we are constantly thinking about. And to ensure continuity, we have formally registered the integral commercial. So it's not just left hanging. With running with the, if you want to call it, council of elders, or we don't want to use the term board members, but something that creates institutional framework for continuity. That helps, because even if both of us are not there, this is it. The Interior Commercial as an organization is a legal persona. It can borrow, it can be borrowed, it can operate, although personalities can change. So that is one key and important uh, step that we have done and we have taken, which safeguards
Mm,
current and going into the future. And
excellent.
you cannot just come and grab and say, this is mine. No, 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 this will go this way. There is now systems. And we talked about ESG. We are now actually putting what we call the ESG framework for, so that, when you have systems, and what is important in organization and innovations of this nature is to put systems and to invest knowledge and energy in putting systems that will make the organization to continue to operate. And that is what we're doing now. We are putting in the whole issue of the ESG framework, which will actually support our organizational strategy and what we desire to see going to the third and fourth and fifth generations.
Mm, mm,
And
mm,
we have learned from what is around us that one of the reasons why some of our organizations or our small businesses or enterprises do not survive after the initiator is gone is because there are no systems and they have not been institutionalized and they have not been given that legal personality to make them operate as they should. And I was looking at the time that we may be missing time, but I also wanted to raise this point that something quite fundamental. We talked about Africa, we talked about our relationship with Lesotho and in the SADC region. I also wanted you to know that is Integral Kumusha, we are part of the emerging movement, or what we call the Pan-African Leadership Program. It's a group of young people, young potential leaders that we are grooming, that they start to think differently. They start to see life differently, and they start to take charge. And at an international level, we are also part of the Home for Humanity, which looks at how, as the global village, we can move away from these hegemonic tendencies that we have, because the old system is dying and the new system is emerging, and the future is being shaped by us. And we would like this to be part of the continuity that we're talking about. So when we're talking about what are we doing, we at a macro level, I've said, but at a micro level, we are now looking at how do we operate and operationalize and create a great momentum regionally and internationally. And I am part of what we call the Wisdom Collective. This is going beyond what we have always thought of as think tanks. And we are saying we are a collective. We draw our wisdom from our different and diverse backgrounds. And we work with very prominent people who have and are related to the UN, and like my brother Yusuf Mahmoud uh, from North Africa, who has been the Undersecretary General in the UN and is still a consultant for peace and peace resolution. And you know, these are kind of deep people. So when you talk of continuity and going into the future, it's not just looking at the integral Kumusha, it's looking at the global. From the micro, and I really like it, from the micro, the integral Kumusha, how do we make it move forward? But how do we expand from Jerusalem to other parts of the world? If
Mm.
we use an analogy of the apostles' commission, the Great Commission. So this is how we look at it, Dr. FM.
Oh, thank you very much. Listen, I don't want you to lose your uh, line of thought there while we're still on this. Would you take a moment to speak to someone who would be interested in thinking more practically in terms of, I have 3 hectares. It's not anywhere close to your 10 hectares, but what what could I do? What could be done? Yeah, we hear stories about those in the diaspora. Listen, things are really bad in Africa, and I know economically it takes a lot of things to, come together to make things work. This is true in Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Burkina Faso. I mean, economies are the outcomes of what we put into them. The thinking, who is involved, and so forth. But uh, speak to someone who is saying, I like what I'm hearing, Dr. Teranike. What what should I do? What could be my next step? Can I contact you? Can I is there some other place I could look into these sorts of things? Because what you're talking about is real. It's I mean, we're talking about real life here, and it has a good appeal to those in the diaspora and to those who are on the continent of Africa and anywhere else. But what what is there something you would like to say to me, sir, before you leave?
Definitely, definitely, Dr. FM. 3 hectares is a big, big land. And what is important is to realize what is available. And I was speaking with my good friend, Dr. Mdondo, yesterday, and we were sharing about how we should open our eyes and ears and our minds to start to see potential and possibilities around us. And there are a lot of things we can do. You asked if they can contact us. Yes, we have a blueprint. In fact, we are saying now when you are building the integral Kumusha, you can actually have different tire system. It doesn't have to be the 10 hectares. Remember, we started with 2 hectares, and we have been building. And we have a blueprint for the tier 3 or the beginners. And we have a blueprint for tier 2 who are emerging into real entrepreneurs, and they are now making real returns. And also tier 1 is when they are fully functional, and we are talking of raw industrialization and transformation, where we can now talk of what appropriate technologies and machines do they require. So yes, there are various what we can do practically, and depending on with what is available in that place. And what I can assure every one of us is every place has a value. It's only when we can start to think and see differently. And this is why we're talking of the new software into the new hard drive that we have built.
Oh, Dr. Taranike, what a delight it has been having you here with us today to talk about an African heritage-based economic system, Nhhakanomics, not just for today, but for the future and our future generations and our young people. And sir, you are an innovator. You are a transformational leader, and we want to thank you for the investments, numerous investments that you continue to put into your community. And now I hear of other communities interested in doing this, and people are coming to see, to catch the vision and to hear you talk about how you started and what can be done. And so there is great potential to change our lives for the better. And you remind me of what my friend from Jamaica said. He said, there are some people who make a mark without leaving a scar. And you are that kind of a person. You are making a mark. You are making marks on people's lives without scarring them. In fact, you are empowering and enhancing our lives. And I just want to say thank you very much. I know I jumped on you last minute because someone else I was supposed to have had on this program, plans changed, and I had to scout around and said, who could I talk to? And you accepted our invitation to be our guest today. So I cannot thank you enough. Thank you very much for what you're doing, and for spending this time with us. It's evening in Zimbabwe right now, and here you are talking to us. We really, really appreciate that. And to our viewers and listeners, thank you very much for being with us today. We've been talking to Dr. Dawood Taranike, who is a co-founder of Integral Kumusha, and he is a passionate believer and practitioner in African heritage-based economic systems. And we are so delighted that you have spent this time with us. And again, as we come to the end of our time together today, this has been your host, Dr. FM, here on Love Bay Afrobeat Radio, your number one global African and Caribbean radio, and variety of programs, 24/7 music and different programs as well. And so we're really, really delighted that our executive team continue to create this space for us to be able to share with other brothers and sisters globally, and not just from Africa, but from anywhere. We go live on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and of course TikTok in over 100 different countries. And so we are just so delighted. Again, to our executive team, hats off to you thank you for creating this opportunity for us. So every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we bring in guests from around the world, people who are passionate about Africa, people who have Africa at heart, Africa in mind, and Africa in their emotions, and committed to making sure that we continue to make a mark without leaving a scar in other people's lives. And of course, we're very committed making sure that our children are intentionally included so that we're not leaving them behind. So again, thank you very much for joining us today. This has been your host, Dr. FM, here on Love Bay Afrobeat Online Radio. And thank you for being with us. And by the way, I just want you to know that coming up at 1 p.m. here, Eastern Standard Time, is the Caribbean Flavor with Mr. Marcus and Miss Gentle Blue, and you don't want to miss that. So again, keep up the good work. Thank you for being with us today. We look forward to seeing you again next week, God willing. God bless you.